I wanted to feel like I was improving people's lives. I wanted to feel like I was making a difference. I wanted to be excited and passionate about what I did every day that I woke up. Welcome to the House of Jermar podcast, where wellness starts within. The House of Jermar is a lifestyle brand empowering women to live all in interior design and personal wellness. We are a destination for women ready to reimagine what is possible in their homes and lives and then create it. We are honored to have you join us on our mission to empower 1 million women to live all in. I am your host, Jeanne Collins, and I invite you to become inspired by this week's guest. Welcome to the House of Jermar podcast, where wellness starts within. I am your host, Jeanne Collins, and today my guest is going to be me. I decided to start my podcast off with the first 3 episodes being me, talking about what the House of Jermar is, how it came to be, what wellness starts within means, and a little bit about my journey so that you understand me as the host and how did I get here. And then the next 2 episodes, I'm going to focus on what does wellness start within mean for interior design, and then what does it mean for personal wellness. And then after that, we'll be kicking off with our fabulous guests, which I am so excited. We've already started recording, and we're going to have people on that are talking about coaching, mindset, personal wellness, fitness, nutrition. I have a TV host, things about interior design. What does wellness in interiors mean? Feng shui. It's going to be great. So thank you for joining the podcast. So let's first get started about the House of Jermar and wellness starts within. And what does wellness start within mean for me? As you know, I'm an interior designer. I'm an award-winning interior designer, which is kind of amazing because I've only had a business for 4 years. I'm also a motivational speaker. I'm a mindset coach, and I'm a published author as well. The House of Jermar and Wellness Starts Within encompasses all of those passions of mine. So wellness starts within. What does that mean to me? To me, inner wellness starts within your surroundings, your home, what you're looking at. What do your rooms look like? What do they feel like? What's the energy that your home gives and gives back to you? And then inner wellness also starts within yourself. That's how are you taking care of yourself? How are you eating? Exercise, mindset. What are you doing to make yourself a priority? And it's the combination of those 2 things that can put us all on a journey towards living our best lives and being designers of our own lives. I would say I'm 53 years old. I'm about to turn 54, and I am truly living my best life. So the question is, how did I get here? I've written a book about it. It's called 2 Feet In, Lessons from an All-In Life. But before we get to my book, let's take a step back and talk about how I got to be where I am today. I was born in Wisconsin. I moved to New Jersey when I was young, and my parents were married. I have a younger sister who's about 2.5 years younger than myself. And when I was 8 years old, my parents got divorced, and my father stayed in New Jersey, and my mother moved us to Connecticut. We lived in a very affluent town, but we were definitely the poorest people in town. I grew up with divorced parents. I saw my dad every other weekend when he would drive up to Connecticut to pick us up and bring us down to New Jersey. And this was before the days of the internet and cell phones, so that was really the only communication I would have with my dad. We would occasionally talk on the phone, but not very much. I'm very fortunate to have been raised where I was raised. If you read my book, there are chapters about my growing up and some of the challenges that I had growing up. I didn't have an emotional connection with my parents. Neither of my parents told me they loved me until I was in my 30s. My mother has very much a victim mentality, and there was lots of negative talk about my father and his lack of providing. And I was also constantly reminded that we were not the same as the other people who lived in the town that we lived in, and we didn't have the money that they had, and we couldn't afford the things that they could afford. I was blessed with an incredible public school education and had a commitment to want to work and to want to have a better life. And so I started working when I was 15 years old, and I've been working ever since. From there, I went to school at the University of Massachusetts, and my degree was in communications. In the first 6 months there, it was so cold and it snowed every single day, and I really just hated it there. And so I decided I wanted to transfer and wanted to find something different for myself. So I headed out west. I transferred to Arizona State University, where I did graduate with a degree in communications. And I loved living out west. Out west really fueled my passion for exercise and taking care of myself and taking care of my body. Everyone is outdoors all the time. And so I really enjoyed living out there. But I returned after I was done with college. There weren't really a lot of jobs at that time in my field. So I returned back to Connecticut. And from there, I got a job working for a French paper company. And I was a sales assistant. I knew absolutely nothing. It was your basic starter entry position. But I was really excited to have a real job and to learn something. And I was there for about a year and a half. And then I got fired because they let go of the people that were in that division. So then I was out trying to find another job. And in the meantime, I had to start working. I started working in a restaurant and I went back to waitressing. I had waitressed all through college. I had worked in a bar, bartended, waitressed. I knew I could always fall back on that. So I started working at a restaurant. And then from there, decided that I really liked the restaurant industry and maybe I would go back to school for that. So I enrolled in NYU's food marketing and food management program and started going to school in New York City, living in Connecticut. And about 2 years into that master's program, I realized that what I really wanted to do was not work in food service and work in food marketing. And I really wanted to go work for Kraft and be a food marketer. So that meant I would have to switch programs and switch to the Stern School of Business at NYU, which was incredibly expensive. So I decided I was going to go get a corporate job that was going to help fund that MBA for me. So I ended up at a company called Velasas, and they are a marketing services they are no longer in existence. They were a marketing services company. And that was going to be how I was going to get into food marketing because I had tried to get a job at Kraft and quickly found out that without having an MBA, I was not going to get a job. Velasas was a marketing services company that serviced different food companies. Ironically, though, I ended up working in sales as a sales assistant, specializing in beauty, Clairol, Revlon, L'Oreal, hair color, makeup, cosmetics, things like that. And I very quickly worked my way up from being a sales assistant to being a sales director and having my own territory. And I stayed in that job for 11 years. And then I moved on to another company that was called coupons.com, doing the same thing as a sales director with a sales territory, mostly specializing in beauty as well. And in that role, that company was a full digital company. And I was really excited about that change to work for a digital company. And as a part of that process, I was really fortunate. I worked at that company for 11 years and I worked my way up the ladder and I started as a sales director and then I became a regional sales director and I had a sales territory plus I managed people. And then I became just a regional director without my own territory, only managing people. And then I became a vice president of sales. And I stayed there for 11 years until I got fired. And I got fired in January of 2020, right before COVID and right before I was turning 50. And at the time, I defined myself by two things. I was a single mom and I was a vice president of sales. And I was the only female vice president of sales at the company at the time. And for many years, I was the only woman vice president, period, other than the head of HR. So I really defined myself by the success I had with that job and the stress that was able to manage with that job. I worked for a public company. And so in a public company, you really report to Wall Street. You're only as good as your last quarter. So I kind of defined myself as a single mom and a vice president of sales. And I didn't have any time or space in my life for anything else. And then I got fired. And then I had to figure out who I am and what I'm going to do. And what am I going to do when I grow up? Because, wow, one of the things I realized when I got fired was how the stress of that job was kind of killing me, both physically, emotionally, mentally, and how the life I was living, I was not happy. I thought I was happy, but I really was truly unhappy. And I couldn't realize that until I was removed from that life and from that situation. So I came across a major crossroads, which was, what am I going to do with myself? And I was about to turn 50. And I really just decided that while I was angry and had so many emotions around getting fired, ranging from anger, how dare they do this to me? I don't deserve this. Loss of friends, loss of coworkers, loss of people that I'd worked with for over 10 years, to total fear of what am I going to do now and how am I going to pay my mortgage, to also, oh, wow, I'm freed from that and I'm forced to have to maybe try something new. And that could be exciting, what that something new is in spite of the fear. So I decided that if I had already just worked in this career for 22 years and I'd had more success than I ever could have imagined in that career, what could I create in the next 20 years? Because I have to work another 20 years. I'm a single parent. I have a child and a very large mortgage. So 20 years of working is still ahead of me. So I approached it as, what could I create? And I was really fortunate to have a business coach who I was given as part of my process of being let go, who really helped me think about, what did I want my life to look like? And how did I want to feel in my life? And what things about my job before made me feel the way I wanted to feel? And from that, what I really came to terms with was that I wanted to be available for my daughter. I didn't want to travel as much. I wanted a lot more flexibility than I thought I had. And I thought I had a lot of flexibility, but I wanted even more. And I wanted to feel like I was improving people's lives. I wanted to feel like I was making a difference. I wanted to be excited and passionate about what I did every day that I woke up. So I decided that I was going to follow one of my passions. And one of those passions was interior design because I owned a house and I'd done some construction and did some projects for myself and family and friends. And I just thought, hey, if I could play with fabrics and wallpaper all day, I would be really happy. So why not start an interior design firm and become an entrepreneur? And so I did. And it was a little crazy because I always say, in some ways, I'm not sure I had any business in becoming an entrepreneur or in becoming an interior designer, but I did, and I did it. And I made this shift and I made the mindset decision that this is what I was going to do. I wanted to create something, I wanted to build something. And so I launched JerMar Designs. I launched my company in February of 2020. It was during COVID, so everything was online. I went back to school and I enrolled in two interior design programs in New York City and did them both online, New York Institute of Art and Design and Parsons School of Design. And I did both of those programs consecutively because I really felt that I needed a degree of some sort to back up why I was going to be a good designer. In May of 2020, I launched my website, I launched my business, and off I went. And JerMar Designs, just to give some context into what does JerMar mean. JerMar is named after my parents, my dad and my stepmother. So it's Jerry and Mary. So that's where JerMar came from. And so in May of 2020, definitely the height of COVID, everyone was home. And here I am deciding I'm going to become an entrepreneur and launch a business in a field that I don't have any previous experience. But I need to build a website. And in order to build a website, I needed to have some content. And so I decided that I needed to get some work. I needed to get some projects. So I posted on the local Facebook moms group that we have here in my town, has about 2,600 active moms. I went and I posted on that moms group a post saying that I would design for free for someone. All of my time and my designs were free. And then I would purchase product based on what I designed, and I would purchase them at trade plus a markup, which is typical for the interior design industry. So there really was no risk to anyone who wanted me to design for them. However long it took me, that was on me. And if they didn't like my designs at the end and didn't want to buy anything, they didn't have to. So I posted this out on Facebook and I thought maybe I'll hear from a couple people in a few days. Within 10 minutes, 30 moms had responded that they had projects for me. And I was blown away by the opportunity. And so quickly my calendar was filling up with all of these Zoom calls with all of these moms about work and projects. And one of them happened to be a full living room project that a couple wanted to have designed. And they had a rug that they liked. They had bought a few pieces of furniture. They didn't like any of it. And the rest of the room was empty. And the husband wanted it to look like a magazine. He wanted to walk in and have everything, coffee table, books, candles, window treatments, artwork. He wanted the full room designed. And that was my big break. That was a full room. And so I spent the next few months doing it remotely, all by Zoom. I had not stepped foot into the home. And I designed the whole room remotely. Then I went and met them for the first time 2 months later for the presentation. And we sat on the floor in this living room. First time I had seen it, we're all wearing masks. We're very distanced apart. I have fabric samples and a button-up presentation and a budget because he's a finance guy. And we walked through my vision for this room for them. And I get to the end of my presentation and I look at him and I said, "What do you think?" Because he hasn't expressed any emotion at all. And he goes, "I like it all except for one thing." And I go, "What is it?" He goes, "I don't like that one candle." I was like, "Okay, I'll find you another candle." And off and running. He bought the whole room, everything that was in the room, coffee table books, everything, artwork, window treatment, everything. And I just left that meeting thinking, wow, I can do this. I am good at this. I can do this. I just proved to myself that I can be a good interior designer. And that was July of 2020. And here I am, I'm recording this in May of 2024, so 4 years later. And I've been so blessed to have a really successful interior design business 4 years later. And I've won awards. I've been nominated as an HGTV Designer of the Year finalist last year in 2023, which was such a huge honor, even just to be nominated on a national platform. I'm part of Architectural Digest's Ad Pro directory, which is also a huge honor. Some of the top designers in the world in that directory. Things like that just make me feel so good about what I've accomplished with my business. And I have projects that are incredible and a portfolio that is really unique and amazing. About a year and a half ago, was talking about maybe someday I would want to write a book. As interior designers, we all want a beautiful coffee table book and something nice and glossy sitting on someone's coffee table to put into prosperity our designs. And I always said it would be interesting to write a coffee table book. I just would want to make sure that I had content within that coffee table book that was teaching people something. And I hadn't figured out what that what that niche was or what I wanted that lesson to be. But I followed and subscribed to a lot of different newsletters about writing books and the publication industry. And I got an email from a company that was having a seminar, an hour and a half seminar about how to become an author and how to write a book. And I read the email and it made me pause, and then I closed the email. And then the day before the seminar, I got another email about it, and it made me pause again. And so I read the email again, and I looked at my calendar, and my calendar was free for that hour and a half Zoom, and it was free. The call was free. So I thought, why not? Let's sign up. So I did. So I signed up for this Zoom call. And at the end of the hour and a half, I had mind mapped out an entire book. And for people who don't know what mind mapping is, very similar to brainstorming. And so in the center, it looks like a sun. In the center, you have what your overall concepts are. And then you have arms that go out all the way around like a sun of different chapters and subchapters. And so by the end of that hour and a half Zoom call, I had an entire book written down on a piece of paper with an outline. And the book was a memoir about my life. And it was about using the lessons of my life to help motivate other people. And I couldn't believe it. And I was like, wow, if I have these lessons that I've been told, and I've been told my stories are so inspiring, and I could find a way to write those down. And even if I just inspire one person to make some changes in their lives and feel like they have a better life, then it will be worth writing the book. So I committed to write the book, and I committed that I was going to write for an hour every day from 5 to 6. And I hired a book coach to help me because I had no idea what I was doing in terms of how does one write and publish a book, because I was going to self-publish it. And off I went to write a book. And that book has become my memoir. And I launched that book in July of 2023. And that book is 2 Feet In: Lessons from an All in Life. And the purpose of that book is to help motivate and inspire people through my stories. And I live life a way that not everybody does. And when I come to crossroads and I have to make a decision, 2 feet in. And I don't let the self doubt and the negative chatter that happens, and the little bird who sits on your shoulder and talks to you all day long, but talks negatively. I'm able to quiet all of that noise and make a decision and have enough confidence to move forward with that decision. And I trust that the universe has my back and is going to all work out okay. And so what I've realized is that not everybody has the ability to do that. But through my stories and my lessons and the tips and tricks and the things that I've done, I am able to motivate and inspire people to take some inspired action in their own lives and to be able to make changes and to become designers of their own lives. So that is how the book came about. And then from the book, we have me being a speaker, me deciding I wanted to get certified as a mindset coach. So I've done that as well. I've been a guest on over 65 podcasts in the last 4 months, talking about my book and my platform and my journey and my story, not only just from a wellness perspective, from a single parent perspective, and also from an entrepreneur perspective, and also as an interior designer and my journey with that, and trying to help other interior designers with their journeys as they start their businesses. So out of that, I have decided to now launch the House of Jermar, which is a lifestyle brand. And I am so excited about this. The Life of JerMar as a lifestyle brand is really about combining everything that I'm really passionate about and wellness starting within. And so it's combining interior design, my book, articles, speaking engagements, and also my podcast, which here we are, with the purpose of giving people a platform and different places to be able to connect with other women, to feel like you're not alone and to get inspired by people's stories and to learn from people, learn from us, people like myself who have experienced a lot of things. And I've read a lot of things and I've done a lot of things and I've tried a lot of things. I've been divorced twice and I got divorced the second time when I was 6 months pregnant. I talk about that in my book, and people don't do that. But there's a lot about my story and the different things that I have done that people can relate to, and it makes people feel connected and not alone. And that's the purpose of the House of Jermar, is to help people feel connected, but also incredibly inspired to take action and to make changes in their lives, to become the designers of their own lives. And we're focusing on interior design and personal wellness as our platform to get us there. So I am so excited to be launching the House of Jermar. I'll keep talking a little bit about the House of Jermar. And let's talk about my manifesto for the House of Jermar, which is really, what does it actually all mean? My manifesto for the House of Jermar. The House of Jermar is for brave and bold women ready to reimagine what is possible in their homes and lives and then create it. It's more than a destination for inspired design. It is a place where women feel connected as they step into their power and create wellness within, together, We create lush inner sanctuaries that fill us with self-confidence, peace, and a feeling of purpose in this world. We are driven by our values, which run through everything we do and design. And those are creativity, balance, calm, respect, beauty, and courage. We are on a mission to empower 1 million women to live all in. So that's a little bit about the House of JerMar. This podcast will have guests on that will all encompass that manifesto of who we are as a brand. And I'm excited to get started and to share that with you. As a guest on my own podcast, I'm going to wrap it up with some of the things that I will be asking my guests. So first one is recommend a book, not your own, that you would recommend someone read or that has had an impact and really changed your life. For me, that book is called Comeback Careers. I read this book in February of 2020, right after I got fired. And I was on vacation and I was reading that book. And the book is all about how to enter back into the workforce if you've been out of the workforce, or how to make a major career shift. And so it's targeted towards women 30s, 40s, and 50s who want to either make a change or want to get back into the workforce. And that book changed my life. It changed how I thought about myself, my interests, my passions, and what I wanted my life to look like, and how I could maybe reinvent myself, because there were lots of really inspiring stories in it. And after reading that book and going through all the exercises and doing all the journaling and doing all the work, that was when I decided that I needed to become an interior designer and launch JerMar Designs. My second favorite book, just because I want to show you guys, 2 Feet In, Lessons from an All-In Life. What I also will ask all of my guests is, where can I find you? You can find me at House of Jermar on Instagram or houseofjermar.com online. You can also find my book, 2 Feet In, Lessons from an All-In Life on Amazon. It's available in every format, including an audio format. I'm going to close today with a quote from my book that will hopefully help inspire you. So here we go. Building a life is not something one does with a wandering mind or insecure fears. While it can be nice to daydream, our lives can only be created with real commitment. Hence, feet, 2 of them in particular, should be planted firmly in the world in which we want to live. I don't mean to make this sound easy. It took me decades to take command as the designer of my life. However, now that I'm here, I have also realized that my life's purpose was to learn these difficult lessons to better pass them on to others. As I said, this isn't about perfection. Perfection is the enemy of the good, and the good is what sustains us through even the darkest of times. We need the good. The perfect we'll find in those brief moments of contentment and joy, and we breathe in, look around, and think, I'm on my way. I'm truly living. Thank you for joining me for the first episode of the House of Jermar podcast. I'm honored to have you as part of our community and look forward to seeing you again for the next episodes. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the House of Jermar podcast, where wellness starts within. We appreciate you being a part of our community and hope you felt inspired and motivated by our guest. If you enjoyed this episode, please write us a review and share it with friends. Building our reach on YouTube and Apple Podcasts will help us get closer to our mission to empower 1 million women to live all in. You can also follow us on Instagram at House of Jermar and sign up to be a part of our monthly inspiration newsletter through our website, houseofjermar.com. If you or someone you know would be a good guest on the show, please reach out to us at podcast@houseofjermar.com. This has been a House of Jermar production with your host, Jeanne Collins. Thank you for joining our house.